Hey guys, so today we're going to spend some time looking at the different labor unions that were founded in the Gilded Age, and this will just give you kind of some good background on what unions were out there that people could join and what they did, who they were founded by, that sort of thing. So this is going to be really quick, just a fast overview here. So we start with our very first labor union, which was founded in 1866 by a guy named William Silvus. Silvus is an iron worker, and basically this is the first time that a labor union is being united, right? So essentially what was going on before this is there were like small little independent labor unions kind of all over the place, and this linked all of these existing local unions, ironworking unions, into one kind of national union that allows the iron workers to have a voice on the national level, right? Now this labor union, 1866, right? What has just ended? Civil War. So this is a pretty typical labor union in that it is segregated. It won't admit African-American workers. It does have some successes, though. It persuades Congress to legalize a late-hour workday for government employees. This is in 1868, and at its peak, it had about 6,400 members. So this is really kind of the first labor union that really is pushing for the rights of the workers on a national level. Now, because African Americans could not join the National Labor Union, for African Americans, they needed to form their own. So the Colored National Labor Union was founded by Isaac Myers, and it was founded for black workers. Basically, this one tried to emphasize cooperation between major management and labor. It also did try to push for some political reforms, but you got to kind of keep in mind African Americans, there was still a lot of segregation and discrimination in both the North and the South. So that's why cooperation was really kind of a big deal. They thought that if they pushed for too much too fast, then they would be kind of labeled as like, these people being uppity, right? So they were really trying to avoid that. This is disbanded in the 1870s, and then members are going on to form and join a labor union called the Knights of Labor, which is going to become much more popular. So, the Knights of Labor, or the Noble Order of the Knights of Labor, is founded in 1869 by a guy named Uriah Stevens. This is officially open to all workers, regardless of race, gender, if you're skilled or unskilled. This is basically for everybody, right? It does officially support an 8-hour workday and equal pay for equal work for men and women. Basically what you would have in factories, we talk about like the pay discrepancy. Well, men might get paid $1 a day where women might get paid 10 cents a day. So it's a really big discrepancy. So at first, they saw arbitration, which is basically working with the employer, but they did believe in using strikes as a last result if necessary. There were 700,000 members at its peak in 1886. Now, I said that it's open to workers of all race, but actually, Chinese and Japanese workers are excluded. There is a wave at this time period of discrimination against Asian immigrants, and that is one way that this does show up in the Knights of Labor. So next we have the American Federation of Labor, founded by a guy named Samuel Gompers. You need to know his name, so put a star, circle, whatever next to his name, in 1886. Now this is only open to skilled workers, so people like carpenters, something you can't just get hired for, right? If you're working in a factory, you don't need a lot of training. But if you're going to be a carpenter or a metalsmith, you got to have some training. So this is a craft union. It focused mostly on this idea of collective bargaining. So again, bargaining with management for the good of everybody. But they also did use strikes, and sometimes those strikes would get a little violent. And you're going to see some of that as we continue to look at these labor unions. All right, next we've got the American Railway Union. This is led by a guy named Eugene Debs, also a very important name. So this is labor open only to people who work in the railroad industry, but the American Railway Union is going to be one of the most important unions. Railways are big in this time period, right? Everybody's riding the rails, and so railroad workers are going to be very important. They are going to be the cause of several major strikes. At its peak, it has 150,000 members, so it's a really important union, and again, Eugene Debs is a name you've got to know. And then last but not least, we have the industrial workers of the world, also known as the Wobblies. So this is organized in 1905 by a guy named William Haywood, also known as Big Bill Haywood. This is open to unskilled laborers. In many ways, it's a reaction to those craft unions, like the ones we saw before. So this is open to miners, lumberers, cannery workers, dock workers, factory workers, basically anybody, right? Now, this is going to be the thing you need to know about this union. And again, you should probably write this down. They are very radical, right? Incredibly radical. And eventually they are going to turn to communism to achieve better working conditions. Now, communism is going to be a really big no-no in America for most of its history. And so the Wobblies are seen as this very radical, very outside group that really people don't trust, and they don't really want to deal with them. And it's because of the Wobblies that we're going to see this association with labor unions and socialism, right? So that's a big deal. This also gave, for the unskilled workers, it was pretty important for them, giving them this sense of unity and dignity that they did not always get from their employers. So this was a really big deal. And again, this labor union is going to be the center of many strikes and riots that take place throughout this time. So, like I said, this was a really quick intro on labor unions here, but I hope it gives you this good picture of kind of what's going on. Labor unions were important for giving people a place that they could go to say, hey, I don't have any rights in my job. I need other people to help me fight for these rights, right? One person might not be able to do that, but a labor union working together can really achieve those rights. So the sense of community is a really big deal for workers, and that is really what's going to allow workers to get the things that they're fighting for, right? To get the 8-hour work days, to get, better pay, better working conditions. All of these things are very important for that. So definitely keep these in mind, and we will continue to talk about kind of the effects of labor unions in class. See you soon.